Brazil is the largest oil and gas producer in Latin America. The country also ranks in the top 10 in the world, supplying roughly 4% of global output. I'm Johanna Bota, and joining me today is StoneX's energy market intelligence analyst, Bruno Santos. Welcome, Bruno. I want to start off by talking about crude oil and natural gas production, which has significantly increased in recent years in Brazil. Can you tell us why and by how much?
Hello, Johanna. Thanks for the invitation. Yeah, over the last 25 years, we saw a big rise in crude oil production in Brazil. Before 2000, we were producing less than 1 million barrels per day. And nowadays, we produce around 3.5 to 3.6 million barrels per day. Most of our production comes from offshore fields. They are mostly located in the southeast of Brazil, mainly in the state of São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. But we also have some fields in northeast of Brazil as well. Um, Most of our production as well comes from deep water extraction. Brazil has one of the most advanced technologies for this type of production. And the outlook for the next years is that we continue to rank among the top 10 biggest producers around the world.
Of course. And the refining business, on the other hand, though, hasn't risen as much. Why is that?
Yeah, you're right. So, although we see big volumes of money go into the exploration of crude oil, in the refining sector, what we see today is a lack of investment. So most of the investment that goes to the refining sector is to expand the capacity of the refineries that we already have today, and also to make all of them capable to process crude oil made from Brazil. And why is that? Most of our refineries were created in the 20th century. So when Brazil wasn't a big producer of crude oil, so most of them imported crude oil and a light type of crude oil, mostly from Middle East, to process and to produce fuels. Our type of crude oil is a heavy one, so some of our refineries aren't capable yet to process our crude oil. So what we see on investments is regarding making them capable, and why we don't see new investments to create a new refinery, for example, in Brazil, because today they are considered a high risk type of investment. So what we see today is that money not only flows to the exploration of crude oil, but also to creating more capacity on producing biofuels. Brazil is one of the biggest producers of ethanol and biodiesel in the world, and we have a new policy that was approved by the Congress last year that's called Fuels for Future, which we establish a rising mandates for ethanol and biodiesel. And we also establish new mandates for green diesel and sustainable air fuel. So what we see today is that we don't see a lot of investments to the refining, but we see a lot of investments to the exploration of crude oil and to the biofuel sector as well.
Well, and this explains why crude exports have grown exponentially since the early 2000s. So, where does Brazil export its crude then?
Yeah, so today around 40 to 50% of what we produce is exported, goes to other countries. Um, from this volume, around 50 to 60% go to Asia. Our biggest market nowadays is the Chinese market, which is have a participation of around 45% of what we sell abroad. European Union also we sell to them about a quarter of the total volume we export, and United States also have a good participation, around 10 to 15%. So the good thing about Brazil is that we have a good commercial relation with almost all the countries around the world, and this makes us capable to diversify more our customers, and our consumers. So that's a good thing about Brazil. And the outlook for the next years is that we continue to rise our exports mainly to Asia.
Now, would you say that Brazil's oil production is also facing some challenges? I mean, one of them being that there's evidence that it's naturally declining. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so as I told you, our the area that most produces crude oil nowadays in Brazil is the southeast. And what we are seeing is that those fields located there are starting to pass through a natural decrease. So the biggest fields we have around here, they are starting to decline its production, and it's something that the Brazilian crude oil producers will face even more on the following years. And the option that they have to change this is to start exploring another areas around Brazil, including an area that we call the Equatorial margin. It's an area that have a huge potential to produce crude oil. However, we have some environmental issues there because this area is close to the Amazonia forest. So there is some worries regarding possible crude oil leaks, for example, as the same thing that we saw on Gulf of Mexico some years ago, and this may create even higher environmental issues there. So there are some worries regarding the exploration of those areas. They weren't approved yet by the Congress, but this perspectives is that they may be approved on the next months. So there is a chance that we may start to rise our production again as we explore this area.
Okay, so we need to watch this space. And where does the Brazilian government stand in all of this? Because since De Silva returned to office about 2.5 years ago, deforestation has fallen. However, his push to brand Brazil as a climate leader is contradicted by his push to accelerate fossil fuel extraction. No?
Yeah, so what we see here, Johanna, is that independent on the government that's running the country over the last 25 years, we continue to see big flows of money go into crude oil uh, extraction. Why is that? Because today crude oil have an important role in our economy. It's one of the products that we most export in Brazil. Some months this product competes with agricultural goods. It's important to address that Brazil is also one of the biggest producers of soybeans and corn in the world. So what we face here is that on one hand we need to decarbonize, so we need to reduce our emissions. But on the other hand, crude oil is still have an important role in our economy. So what we see from the actual government is that they are trying to reduce emissions from other sectors. As I told you before, the fuel sector is one option. As we see the approving of the fuels for future policy, and we see that our our policy this policy is trying to reduce the fossil fuel share in our energy mix, and the efforts for deforestation as well. But what we see nowadays is that the crude oil extraction sector should not be affected, by these environmental efforts. So, as crude oil still plays an important role in our economy. So, I think that's it. I think that's why we continue to produce big volumes of crude oil, and the outlook for the next years is that we continue to do that.
Well, thank you, Bruno, and thank you so much for your time. And thank you for watching. For more financial content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.